So first, we'll have JOÃO Fernando André from the University of Cape Town. He's also connected to the University of Lisbon and Alliance Française. Is an Angolan teacher, researcher, essayist, writer, and cultural consultant. Associated with UMA, the Institute for Humanities in Africa at the University of Cape Town, Arts, University of Lisbon, and Alliance Française, like I said. He's a PhD candidate in modern literature, arts, and cultures. He has a master in Portuguese language literatures. He's member of the Union of the Angolan Writers and PEN, Poets, Essayists, and Novelists Club. JOÃO, it's time for your show.
Let me see this. I don't know if it's okay.
Por ali. Não, aí. Sim, está feito.
So, morning everybody. It's a pleasure to be here with you all, and I'm glad for the invitation. Thanks for the invitation, Professor Margarida, Professor Carla, and the organization of this important event. So I'm going to talk about this book, Arca de Não É. What does mean, Arca de Não É? It's an allegory of Ark of Noah, the myth in Bible. And my paper, I'm going to talk about hydrofiction in perspective, ecocritical reading of Arca de Não É by Bento Baloi. So with this ecocriticism of matter as a background, this paper provides element about the impact of the capitalist world system on undeveloped countries. Based on world literature, the paper analyzed the role of water in the book Arca de Não É by Mozambican writer Bento Baloi. As I'm going to read, we're going to realize that water, a liquid essential for life, can also be catastrophic material, leading to loss of property and human lives through cyclones and floods. Nature as a cosmos continually operates for the good of itself and microcosmos. But I would like to show this sentence before I keep on. This sentence by Ballard, he said, "The periphery is where the future reveals itself." So, starting in 18th century, with the turn of Industrial Revolution, the level of production and distribution of goods soared. With the large production in industrialization countries, normally in the West, England, United States, France, Russia, and later with the entry into the competition with so-called Asian tigers, Japan, China, India, United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Iran, and Iraq, and Qatar, there was an increase in greenhouse gas emission. As a consequence of such unecological practice, slow violence seen by Nixon as systemic and systematic violence that, because of its slow and non-spectacular, is often made invisible, is increasing in many areas of the blue planet, resulting in drastic global climate change and more environmental catastrophes, global warming, droughts, floods, forest fire, and change in cyclones activity. So cyclones are natural phenomena, right? But if it weren't for the large emission of greenhouse gas into the atmosphere resulting from the industrialization, the umbrella search for capital by certain sectors of corporatism, such as oil production, agriculture, weapons, and even fishing, we would hardly have deadly cyclones like those we have been seeing in recent decades. There are three types of cyclones: tropical, extratropical, and subtropical. Among them, the most dangerous have been tropical cyclones. In unequal modernity, the countries that suffer more from cyclones, or with cyclones, tend to be tropical countries. And we see in the last communication, like Australia, Brazil, Madagascar, and Mozambique. Shiva, a researcher, clarified the following: cyclones and hurricanes have always occurred, but like Super Cyclone Orisa, Cyclone Nargis, Cyclone Ayala, Hurricane Katrina, and Hurricane Sandy, we didn't see it. The intensity and frequency of cyclones have increased with climate change. The Indian Ocean region has been the scene of floods and cyclones. As an example, Cyclone Idai hit Mozambique, Malawi, Zimbabwe, Madagascar, and South Africa in March 2019. Being to that worst cyclone to occur in Mozambique, causing deaths and loss of rare possessions of the population of the city of Beira and other surrounding locates. In the preface to the collection, Idai, Marx in verse and prose, Lopes present a landscape of what happened in the following terms. The city of Beira and its industrial satellite, the village of Dondo, which has an old, beautiful DNA double helix close to the village main terminal, were literally consumed by the fury of nature, the mother, the only God with strength alive. Men, animal, homes and institutions, roads, bridges, objects and life projects, cyclone that swallowed them with its hunger. It is if a nuclear bomb using modern technology had passed through there. Today, the pain and specter of poverty remain. There is no food, there is no water, there is no electricity, there is no communication. There is despair and anguish in that place. So, Baloi, in the opening note of his narrative of this cyclone passage in Sofala, Arca de Não É, reports the following. I arrived in Sofala a few days after the catastrophe. I found people on their knees, covered breaths, but resisting drowning in their own tears. Fierce people who had just taken a severe blow to kidney but who insisted on showing a look of hope from Chungamoyo to Chungamoyo. That means market, this word means informal market. However, water, a precious liquid that serves to quench the thirst of men and other animals and keep agriculture up to date through cyclones and floods, has claimed lives and has also been a weapon that destroys food, fortune, and properties of the population. Given the lack of concern among those deciding the majority issues necessary for combined and equal development between rich and poor and nature, authorities, more and more scholars, short story writers, chronicles, poets, and novelists are denouncing such environment catastrophes in their work. In the essay Slow Violence and the Environmentalism of Poor, Nixon then asked, as the question. At the time when the media venerate the spectacular, in which public policies is shaped primarily around needs, seem as immediate, a central question is strategic and representational. How can we convert disasters that move and form slowly into image and narrative? And leave disasters that are anonymous and have no main actors, disasters that cause friction and are of indifferent interest to technologies driven by the sensation of our image world? That's the question. This low, non-spectacular violence results from eco-crimes that are being practiced on daily basis with the exploitation of natural resource in ambitious, inconsequential way and without any notion of the social principle of other systems, without an epistemological ecology. In opposition to the logic of neoliberal capitalism that proposes living better with more goods that threaten the ecological and social balance, the Sumakasai principle proposes diving goods so that everyone can live well. Human life in harmony with nature is the central axis of this proposal from indigenous people in some regions of South America. Ecuador's National Plan for Good Living summarizes well the purpose of this Samakasai paradigm. The deep meaning of this plan is in concept rooted with the Washington Consensus. And the orthodox concept of today, development, mean growth, speed, export. The living well paradigm represents the long-term search for a new social pact which is continually constructed. In the Ubuntu principle of Sumakasai, were maximized if those two principles. We was talking here about another philosophical paradigm of seeing the things, and there is I propose here two principles to see how we could live. I mean, Ubuntu and Sumakasai. If it were maximized, the accelerators of capitalist development would know more about the need to apply sustainability in exploration and use of natural resource. They would not only think of sustainability as an obligation of the positive law of nature that, when not fulfilled, results in application of relatively heavy fines by governments, but rather would understand that the blue planet is the only one that so far has full condition to accommodate human life in synchrony with other bodies of biodiversity. So, Bento Baloi takes advantage of this passage of this cyclone, Idai, and in the field of what we call hydrofiction narratives, in which the presence of water is very strong, being also a kind of character, with stories that insert with stories caused by the cyclone Idai and other subjects of reason. In the field of world literature, which is the literature of the capitalist, patriarchal, and colonialist world, ecocriticism operates as one of the routes from which we can compare the social schemes of the world, what Wallerstein calls of world systems, with hydrofiction being one of the categories of ecocriticism. To the understanding of this hydrofiction, explain it in previous paragraph, we could add the words of Medeiro according to which in these writings, Medeiros said, water is not only everywhere. It inaugurates the narrative. It is the first and most persistent memory. Furthermore, it is not only serves to reflect on the omnipresence of water, on water as the very foundation and ontology of the city, but it is also goes beyond the opposition between urban and rural space. In fact, even between solid and liquid space in the terrain and the sea and the river, streams, lake, ponds, and even dams cause massive coastal flooding and dissolution of all kinds of boundaries. That is in Arca de Não É, in English we say Ark of No One. Personification of water, a precious liquid for the people, operate prosopopically, causing environmental catastrophes, death, and the cleaning of everything it finds in the village, giving life to the liquid that gives life. Baloi proposes us, through the said and unsaid, a reflection around the notion of body, being, and movement. There is, you can see in this part of the book. So keeping the Arca of Não É narratives also serve as a social critique of the state of things between the prosperous and the Calibans in this combined and unequal development. When operating with the lexical items other, we want to refer to those who often are not even citizens, because in many cases they have no identification document. Already plagued in their village by poor management of public affairs, dystopia, the near lack of food, drinking water, social housing, information, hospital units, medical and medication assistance, they simply live each day with strength, faith, love, and desire to contribute in some way to the well-being of their communities, dreaming, loving, procreating, supporting orphans, and respecting their elders. These are the subjects of reason spend their lives with this population that with the conditions they have, which and punished by lumpen radicalists. These are those of population that, as Davis says, in many cases, no longer they need to migrate to cities. Cities migrate to them. And I put there another part of this book, Arca de Não É, for you to see. There is also a concern in Arca de Não É about inequality in access of retrovirals in countries in the global south, where regions such as South Africa, India, and Mozambique have the highest number of citizens with AIDS. As Mine and Shiva say in the book Ecofeminism, this structure of the global north and south north was created, grew, and as maintained through the colonization of women, original populations, their lands, and nature, which is gradually destroyed. If we take into account the colonization of women in the world system dominated by capitalism and patriarchy is a fact, it is worth highlighting the criticism in defense of ecofeminism in Baloi's Hydrofiction, as reporting to HIV positive people are mainly linked to women and to the girls mainly. So you can see in this part of the book. The subjects plagued by unequal modernity dominate the theatre of narrative operation in work Arca de Não É by Bento Baloi, as can be seen in all the tales like Jailhouse, Nuvem de Espuma, Zé das Abelhas, Minha Primeira Vez, O Parto, O Guardião, O Poder, A Mala, O Crocodilo, Na Pele de um Pássaro, Professora Sônia, A Caminhada, and so on. Even when the prosperous representative of the executive power appear in the narrative, the case of the prison security agent and the heads of the administrative posts, they are placed in the skin of the Calibans, equal afraid of losing their life. And you can see this, it's a little bit fun, this part of the book, as you can see there. The stories contain environmental catastrophe, tragedies, events of love, hope, bravery, and despair, analyzing them based on the theory of world literature, the capitalist, colonialist, patriarchal world system that destroys the environment and ecotones. They allegorically portray the tragedies caused by I die. In the tale, My First Time, it's a story that takes place, like most of narrative in Mozambican literature field, in a rural area. Shivavis is one of the protagonists. This man, due to poor living condition, decide to leave for a city, Maputo, maybe, in search of better conditions, education, so that when he could return to the village, he could contribute to the well-being of this community. However, the departure cost him distance from his family and, above all, from his loved one, the main character who narrates this story in the first person. The digest concerns a hard-working and respectful young woman who, wanting to discover her most intimate femininity, can't wait to be in the arms of her beloved friend Shivavis. Shivavis spent time on the asphalt of big city, returned to the village, and in the same way is looking forward to bed with his beloved friend, the narrator character. However, on the night of romantic act, after the libidinous moment, the couple find themselves involved in an uncomfortable environment, water flooding the heart, strong wind, and the thunderstorms. You can see there in this passage of the book. Due to strength of love, Shivavis managed to have a happy ending by saving his loved one. Maybe saving because of he died, maybe not. It's a little bit confused. So we can have double understanding in the passage of the book. This passage of the book, taking her to medical care in a good time, and you can see this passage there also. Baloi's narrator, his make us see that in a world that is in constantly changing, negative things like ecological catastrophe can happen at any time. Evil may be one of the consequences of exaggerated industrialization that occurs in the global north, but with even affect rural regions that normally practice Sumaco Asai or Ubuntu principle. In fact, respecting the environment, not polluting the atmosphere and landing with extensive deforestation and excessive use of pesticides. Bearing in mind that the population of the city is growing daily when large-scale deforestation and the excessive use of pesticides occur in this region, they result from contact with the food production of agricultural entrepreneurs and the furniture sector for sale in urban areas. It's because in unequal modernity, there are few fertile lands, green areas, and trees in paved areas. For the purpose of maintaining the exchange of goods, rural community must be used, even if it costs them to destroy the green belts and even because they have chapter label.
ANDRÉ, you have to make it short.
Okay, all of that. According to the report by Climate Focus on international, they say global deforestation is increasing and little has been done to stop this advantage. Bringing these reports to light in article published by the newspaper Exam in 2023, says journalist Marina Philippe. So, in a world that is becoming less and less green, in which deforestation increases with each passing year, there is concern of the tree in Arca de Não É by Bento Baloi, because in many of those narratives that make the work, the trees serve as an escape, as last refuge, a point of salvation for population in rural areas whenever water decides to act as a means of purifying nature and actions of human around them through days of cyclones. So I'll try to jump some parts because of the time. So whether in Jailhouse, Power, and even in Arca de Não É, the last story of the work, the idea according to which the exercise of living by men and other beings is an unalienable right that is in risk, and that only solidarity between human and development based on the environment and human-environment relationship without the abysmal line of exploitation is capable of providing us better days and equality. Because if we do not change our attitude toward nature, no money, power, position, race, or other means that differentiate us will be enough to save humanity in the face of global environmental catastrophe. So this part of the book shows us more about what we're talking. So to finish my communication, in Arca de Não É, appealing to cognitive empathy is configured as a basque of narrative and photograph affection, love, desire, solidarity, hope, bravery, in short, that core of feminine and masculine in a time of ecological catastrophe of Idai. The narrative brings to light the permanent look and the results seeing and observing with real and fictional lens between history and time of slow violence and stopped movement without blame assumed for so many evils that the environment and the population, above all, the most need in rural areas and outskirts, are suffering because of the non-effectiveness in full of the right of nature and man. Thank you for your attention.